Morning, Ange.
Good morning, Dee. How are you?
I'm well. It's a Wednesday. Are you having a good week?
I am.
You haven't been feeling your best.
I hadn't felt great this week, but here we are, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Life and breath and all the things. So
Yeah.
maybe it's just part of being middle-aged.
All the blessings that come with that.
Oh, yeah. They're countless. Countless.
We left off on Monday with posing a question to you guys and to us, saying if someone were to observe your life
Yeah.
based on the time, energy, and money that you spend,
Yes.
what would that say about you?
Mm-hmm.
So, Angela.
Well, I just asked myself.
Yeah.
And, and we ask other people as well. But to begin with, I was thinking, well, if somebody were to do a quick look at my time, energy, and money, they would say that I like fictional romance, I like people, and I love shoes. So there you go.
Okay, so if I was to answer the question,
Yes.
the first thing that comes to mind is coffee.
Which was said at the table last night about
That's
you.
right.
Mm-hmm.
That was so neat. It's, yes, to know me is to know that I do love coffee.
Mm. Ooh, technology.
It's true. Okay, a guilty pleasure. I'm always going to spend.
Why does it have to be a guilty pleasure?
I don't know why.
Why can't it just be a pleasure? Like, I like spending money on technical products
On
or
technology.
Yes,
I
think
do.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Listen, I'll spend an unreasonable amount of money, if I have it, on speakers or headphones. Because I want to experience music in my earballs.
Yes.
I don't,
Yes.
like I want to feel like I'm in there with the instruments.
Yes.
Yes. And you
Yes.
cannot get that with your everyday speaker. And so, yes, I would say technology, coffee, and friends and family, people.
For sure. Okay. So do you want to refresh us on what alignment means?
Yes. And I'm going to try to do this from memory.
Mm.
Okay, I'm going to take a word that you said and just...
Riff off. We like to call it riff off.
Yeah, we're
in
gonna-
morning share.
Yes.
We just kind of keep going. So sometimes we end up on rabbit trails, but then all of a sudden, magically, we hit upon just a really deep nugget of truth.
Yes.
So what was the word that you were thinking about?
Well, the word that you said was synergy, which I think is a perfect example of what alignment brings. So alignment is congruence between your core values and how you live your life.
Yes.
So there is those things are in sync. And then synergy, I think, is what comes after those things are aligned. So it's actually, that's the power of being aligned, is then the synergy that you experience. So that's not a definition of alignment, but it's the thing that I think that we feel when we're aligned.
Yeah, it's the energy produced. I mean, synergy. I mean, in sync energy, essentially, is what we kind of felt like it meant.
Okay, so we've got to spend time talking about basically the question that we left ourselves with was that alignment involves clearly defining your vision, your goals, your intentions, and then aligning your resources, time, energy, and money to support those aspects.
Right.
So can we spend just a moment unpacking that?
Sure. So we're talking about how like the external can be indicator of what's happening inside.
I think this is why vision boards and understanding your core values and who you are so important, because we recently did this. And so I have, a giant poster in my room that I walk by every day on my way to make coffee. And it reminds me of the things that I value and the things that are true about me. And so I think how this can help is that if I find that I'm spending my time, I'm spending my money, and I'm spending my energy on things different from what I have really worked through to decide are my core values, then that can be a check for me to be like, ooh, I think maybe I'm operating out of misalignment. That may not be the case. Maybe I've changed and I need to adjust my vision board.
Exactly.
But it could mean that I need to reassess, reevaluate, and see, okay, I maybe am not operating from my core truth.
And realign. We were talking about earlier how my journal, since I have journaled since I was so young, it is my daily kind of source of alignment, to be able to process what's happened and who I am and who I want to be, and kind of do a little quick self-assessment as I journal of how the day before went, what adjustments would I make in how I spoke, how I interacted with other people, what I thought about, what made me happy and what made me sad, and how I contributed to the wholeness of those around me. So I think for me, it's a daily kind of source of realignment.
Absolutely.
For me. And so I think whatever tools that looks like for you, whether it's a check-in with a loved one, or maybe you have an accountability partner of sort that you could say, like, be open when transparent and vulnerable enough with them to say, these are the things that I really, really value and I desire for my life and to contribute to those around me. Will you help me? Can we talk those things through? And I think that's what you and I have been able to do for each other. And it's not so much of, Deanna, that didn't line up with your, core values. Just simply by being in community, you very quickly will know and kind of have a little bit better understanding of yourself and when you're feeling misaligned.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a bigger indicator is when you're misaligned. Yeah, I think you said earlier that alignment is so helpful because it gives us a sense of stability and a consistent way of being in this world.
Would you like to talk about your season of misalignment?
Lord knows I've had a ton of them. And they can be longer and they can be shorter. I think I have two primary ones right off the bat right now is that when I first was married, I came into a family right on the heels of, I had a sibling who passed away. My only sibling passed away. And then shortly after we were married, my mother passed away. So I'm experiencing all kinds of griefs and a definite upheaval in who I am. And had grown up relatively confident in a home where I was affirmed and encouraged to be independent, be myself, be my strongest self. That came with its own issues too. Certainly not saying I grew up in a perfect way, but I wasn't 100% prepared for the expectations that I faced within my in-laws family. But as I walked into a bigger family, which on one hand I was so excited, I actually had several people who could be not siblings, but kind of have that sibling kind of relationship with.
Yeah.
I had a mother figure back in my life, and we moved states closer to my in-laws at the time as well. So we spent concentrated time with them. And I just felt like, again, it could have been projecting or whatever. It just felt like who I was in that season was never what they really wanted.
Accepted.
Exactly. And so I continually felt uncomfortable, and it was exhausting. Maybe for them too, but definitely for me, because I was always tentative and insecure that I didn't quite meet their expectations. The things that I know true about myself were not seen as gifts in that context. And so that was really hard.
Yeah.
Because I don't truly believe that they would love me and accept me if I showed up as my most authentic self.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So if we think back about our examples of times that we feel misaligned, think about it with that new perspective. How do I operate without a mask on and not performing?
I think this is where the word boundaries comes in. I think you go back into these spaces with boundaries. A confidence, number one, in your own self, but a boundary for yourself. Like, my boundary is I'm going to continually say yes to my truest self in this space, but I'm also going to be willing to say no for the benefit of others.
And the benefit of myself.
And the benefit of yourself. The greater yes to yourself. So what if alignment, like Brené Brown says, is a daily practice of letting go who you think you're supposed to be? What if that's the check-in? Can we articulate what at least the story we tell ourselves, which is a great phrase that Deanna has been kind of teaching me how to use. What if the story we tell ourselves is in this environment, these people expect me to be blank? My phrase, even at my age now, is because I grew up in a perfectionism home where perfectionism, I felt like, was the expectation. Perfectionism, to be perfect, was my goal. And that entailed me performing all the things. I still to this day have to tell myself and my also inner critic, I don't have to be perfect. And so I say that out loud sometimes. It is on pieces of paper around my house as a mantra. I say it, like I said, sometimes when I'm all alone and I make a mistake, I say I don't have to be perfect. So in those moments, to me, that's helping me realign. I feel a little bit out of alignment because I all of a sudden got into the realm of performance. And so I can realign myself in that moment by saying, I don't have to be perfect. It sets me free and reminds me, I just have to be me.
Yeah.
That the best gift that I can give to somebody is to show up as my full self today. That is enough. And the people who know me and love me will eventually get there.
Really, I think what you're saying is we have to let go of the outcome of what people may or may not think or how they're going to react or respond or feel. We show up as who we are. But kindly, you've got to tell the story of
the wedding. Oh.
Yes.
So a couple of years ago, my husband's cousin was getting married at a destination wedding in the French Quarter of New Orleans. And we were invited. It was an adult-only wedding. His family is a blast, and they have such a good time in life. And so we've changed our minds on some things. And so we go fully willing to participate in this wedding and have a blast. Meanwhile, the rest of my husband's family was also there, who still maintain a lot of those
external
behaviors. And that's completely fine. That's their convictions. I respect that 1,000%. And so leading up to this wedding, I was extremely scared and nervous about how I could authentically show up in this space and have the time of my life with my husband, celebrate his family well, and enjoy and participate in what was the celebration. But still very scared and really raw that would I be accepted anymore because I'd changed my mind on some of these things. At least would I be accepted in my husband's family? And before it was over with, in my journal processing, I just felt like I got 3 divine directives for me for that particular event. And they were be kind, be myself, be true to myself, and be love. And so I went in, I had a blast. And I felt like I came home feeling like I had done those 3 things. I had been kind to both perspectives. I had been true to myself, and I had loved well, and I had a blast.
So the question we have to ask ourselves is, am I choosing to live from other people's expectations or from my values?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times I live from what other people are expecting, and that's actually a miserable place to be.
Or at least what you think they're expecting.
Exactly.
This is where I feel like we were talking the other day, and where I have lived so much of my life is sometimes I think this group of people is expecting me to do this or be this. And it turns out later on, when I have the curiosity enough and the humility enough to ask them, what are your expectations of me in this moment? I find out they're not really what I thought they were.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just a lack of communication and a willingness to sit down and have the conversation.
Yes.
And so I'm learning better to say, help me understand what you're expecting from me in this.
Absolutely.
Or this is who I am in this situation, and this is what I would love to accomplish here in this environment. And just be able to articulate what my expectations for myself and for the situation is.
Recently, I saw some sort of Instagram post about a method of communicating what you're feeling inside. And he said, what I have found really helpful is to say, the story that I'm telling myself is this. And so that gives you the opportunity to say what you're feeling, what you're thinking that they're thinking. And for me, that it feels transformative to be able to say, hey, this is the story I'm telling myself. Can you help me
confirm or deny that?
Confirm or deny that. And I think it does a couple things. Like it automatically, it almost puts them on your side of understanding or empathy. It gives them a head start in empathizing,
right,
and understanding where you're coming from.
You've got to be willing to have conversations. If it's worth saving, if the relationship is worth maintaining, you have to be willing to have conversations.
Yeah. And it's
about where you are and own it. I know that historically I have shown up in this environment as this. And after doing much work, internal work, I'm realizing that a lot of times I was performing a role. I wasn't giving you my authentic self. And I'm trying to now operate from a space of authenticity. Therefore, this is where I'm at now. And I'm thankful for your love and support of me throughout the years. And I'll look forward to seeing how we grow together. I mean, I think that's the most profitable conversation. That's like that initial kind of, I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm shifting. I'm aware that this is also going to make you uncomfortable. It's making me uncomfortable.
Sure.
We'll acknowledge the elephant in the room, but I want to maintain a relationship with you. Can we keep talking about it? And can you show me some grace and kindness and understanding and curiosity for who I am now? Mm-hmm. Maybe those are all conversations.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still working through this myself. Sometimes I just would rather just like blow the bridge up a little bit and deal with the ramifications later.
Yeah.
But that's also because of my 8-ness. Tact isn't, and sensitivity sometimes. It's there. I'm like, I'd rather rip the Band-Aid off and just boom, and then deal with the after effects than to do the slow, pull the Band-Aid off slowly and rip every hair out and rip the scab off with it and just torture myself for months on end. I'd rather just, this is what's happening.
Yeah. And I'm the other way. I'll feel all of the turmoil and ruin my health in the process to not cause you discomfort.
Well, and I think going back all the way back to the chiropractic analogy, are you willing to live with a misaligned back, neck, whatever, to the deterioration of these extremities and your ability to move and have energy and be empowered in spaces because you're afraid of what somebody else is going to think or feel.
Yep.
And again, those are all things you just think are going to happen. We don't know those to be true. So it is kind of like living in the what if.
Right.
Instead of the what is.
Yes.
So.
And you know what? What's true is that the ramifications typically are more harmful internally to yourself than they are if you would just have the conversation. What just came to mind when you were talking about that is, I can't believe we didn't think about this, but alignment with your wheels. Mm-hmm. You know, every time you get
front end alignment.
And my dad would always say to me, don't put that off, because when your wheels are out of alignment, it's going to wear your tires
a certain
way.
Yep.
And then that's going to have consequences on different parts of your car. Mm-hmm. So if you don't keep those tires aligned, you're going to end up destroying your car.
Yes.
And so no one else on the road knows that your wheels are out of alignment typically. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really cool analogy of you've got to take care of your insides.
Yeah.
You have to be aligned, because if you don't, it's going to have an effect on other parts of your body, mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah. And I would chance what we don't recognize often too is it really does have an impact on our relationships, performing or maintaining a relationship that's really not authentic.
Right.
So Monday, we mentioned a term boundaries. I had to confess that immediately when we started talking about it on Monday, I went to the negative, that it meant saying no.
Right.
Where now I would chance to say, I don't think it always means saying no. I think it means saying yes. Sometimes it means saying not yet, or not right now, or not this way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall, boundaries are a good thing for everybody.
Yeah.
We were talking about property. If you own any kind of property, boundaries to know where your property ends and someone else begins, that's a good thing. We don't ever think, oh, you can't have boundaries. We think of, again, it's good to have boundaries with children, that we need to let them know it's not okay to run in the street. There's a boundary there. You can't go past this sidewalk, but that was for their protection. So those were all good. So when we're asked to set a boundary with someone else or our own selves, like why all of a sudden does that feel wrong? When in all these other contexts, we've just talked about that it's all good, right, and necessary to keep ourselves and others safe. Why all of a sudden, when we talk about it, setting boundaries within relationships or in order for us to maintain authenticity and alignment, why all of a sudden does the word boundary sound negative?
It made me think about when the dean of education at the college I went to said, boundaries are actually, it is a yes. There's much freedom within knowing where the space is, because then I feel like I have absolute freedom within this space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a different way of looking at it.
Talk about the difference in the wall and the fence, maybe.
Yeah, came across a quote one time that says, healthy boundaries are not walls. They are the gates and fences that allow you to enjoy the beauty of your own garden. It was by Lydia Hall. And I remember, I think it was a year ago or more, and it was so transformative because it completely changes the idea of a boundary. I've always had a hard time saying no for whatever reasons, but saying no feels like, I don't know, it's just always been hard. But when I think about it as I really am saying yes to the healthy version of myself, which is what you want. It's what your friends will want to experience. My friends will want to experience the healthy Deanna.
Yes.
So when we think about the difference between gates and fences and walls, both are for self-preservation. I build a wall so that someone can't get in. Boundaries are rooted in self-respect, while walls are rooted in fear. And I think that's so impactful because I'm going to build a wall so that you can't hurt me. Where a fence is vulnerability, right? Like you can still get to me.
Right. And oftentimes you can still see me.
Yes.
Where a wall is solid and
Right.
you can't even see.
So in boundaries, I'm giving you the opportunity to see me. Boundaries also create opportunity for closeness, where walls prevent us from being known.
Yeah.
You know, like, so there's that vulnerability aspect, that there's risk that I'm allowing you to get to know me, where a wall is, I'm going to prevent you from knowing me.
Right.
And then boundaries allow for honest self-reflection, and walls prevent us from knowing others.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, that barrier goes both ways. Not only keeps people out in fear, but it also keeps you locked in fear.
Yes.
Where you can't know others.
Right.
I was thinking again about even my granddaughter, who's 3. And her parents set boundaries with her, but they also allow her to set boundaries, usually physical at this point. But so for instance, if a extended family member comes over, and sometimes it's even me, she walks in my house and she's happy to see Nan, but she's not in the mood to give me a hug. And I do not force her to do that. I respect her boundary. But that doesn't mean she's never going to give me a hug again. She's just saying not yet. Boundaries still can be kind, because to me, it allows for authenticity. It means I'm not comfortable doing that right now, but that doesn't mean forever and ever and ever, most of the time. And so I think when we can see it that way too, sometimes it's just a not yet or not in this way, then that's different to me from a no, never,
Right.
which is usually fear.
And a wall.
That's a wall.
Yes.
And yet I think oftentimes we confuse those. We hear not yet or not right now or not in this way. And we get our feelings, we take it personally and we get our feelings hurt. Maybe because we're not operating in a place of authenticity and alignment.
Yeah. Well, here's the
or
thing.
we haven't set our own boundaries.
That's exactly. I think
Say
often
more about that.
people who have a hard time setting boundaries have a hard time respecting boundaries. And I'm speaking from experience. Like, it's when someone sets a boundary with me, my knee-jerk reaction is offense, because I am not in the habit of saying no, of setting a boundary. And so then I'm just like, well, if it's a different way of operating. And it's really interesting because if I think a boundary is a negative thing, then that's the only way I have to interpret it is that it's a negative thing.
Right.
So I think that's why I think it's so important for parents to really nurture the ability for your children to say no. Obviously that, you're in a position of authority with them, but being able to teach them how to say no starts from a really young age so that they understand they are allowed to set boundaries. They're encouraged to set boundaries so that when it comes time to really matter, that they have a voice.
For sure. For sure. And that they're taught that they're worthy of respect at some level.
Yeah.
And from a very young age. Like, no, we want to empower you to know yourself. Already you're promoting authenticity even in a 3-year-old.
Yes.
And that can sometimes be a scream fest, or a fit. That's the most authentic thing she's doing right now, is she's voicing her displeasure with the boundary set. That doesn't change the boundary. But even my daughter will affirm, I understand this is frustrating.
Right.
However, we're still going to do this.
And which leads me to another point is that boundaries teach people how to treat you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like if you are a person that finds it hard to set boundaries, like I do, I experience fear, I experience worry. I think maybe me setting a boundary feels selfish. I feel like, well, how is it going to make the other person feel? Like those are on my mind a lot. And, I'll worry about saying no to going someplace with someone, hanging out, or probably 1,000 times a day. I have this experience. And it's only because I operate or I live in a safe place where I have been able to exercise that muscle over and over and know that it's a safe place. And so my ability to say no my ability to set boundaries is growing and growing.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to do that and see, oh, this doesn't hurt our relationship.
Right. Right.
Oh, actually, I'm teaching the people around me how to love me well.
Yes.
Because I'm willing to say those things.
Exactly. And it makes your yes is more powerful. Because if you never say no and all you say is yes, yet inside you don't mean that.
Right.
You're not aligned with what you really think. So resentment is a huge factor in people who don't have boundaries.
That's right.
I think they're always frustrated, and they operate at a level in general of just of kind of an irritable resentment.
Because my yes is not really my yes.
Right. And so I think as someone who appreciates the authentic, I love a good no because I'm like, yes, I know that now I know exactly what she thinks. Instead of, well, she said yes, but it feels like her body is saying no.
Yeah. And
I think the more intuitive we become, the more you start to realize when somebody isn't quite like being they're not aligned in that moment, and you can give them space. And if they're good, close community, you're able to say, is that really what you think? And I'm just old enough and crazy enough to say that these days, but to go back. But yeah, I think it makes your yes more powerful.
Yeah.
When you don't use it for everything.
And your no, I think you become a more honest person. Definitely that was my first memories of moving here and living here, when you were like, I want your honest, like, is that really what you want? Like, it took a while to, I think, for me to live honestly, and for you to see through my yes or my no. Like,
Yeah.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Are you really being honest?
Yeah. And now I feel like you're a little more forthcoming with your like definitive yes or no's. And now that that's transcended even outside of our home, of like, no, that's exactly what I think.
Right.
So.
Oh, for sure. It has impacted my other relationships.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
No. No, truly.
Okay. You're welcome. So now we have to talk about the pseudo or shadow side of alignment. The week we talked about vulnerability, we talked about a little bit of its counterpart was transparency. And so we started realizing that each and every week we're talking about something internal, like an internal kind of truth or concept. And the external component is transparency to vulnerability. Then you get to authenticity, and what's the external to that?
Integrity.
So that's more of an externally focused, outward focused behavior.
Yeah.
This week, we were talking all around alignment, and all of a sudden we said, oh, the external performance-based thing here is conformity.
And it was like our minds exploded.
Yes, it was synergy.
Yes.
It was synergy because we just realized we had kind of discovered a real truth
Yeah.
to things.
Yeah. And by shadow side, it could be kind of explained as like the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Okay.
More performance-based, external, that requires very little internal kind of motivation. So it's usually externally driven.
Yes.
So we also said most of those externally driven things are we're operating in those things. And the internal concepts of vulnerability, authenticity, and alignment are going to be, we're going to be driven and motivated and operating from a place from, like originating internally.
Okay. So if I were to say that, using that kind of frame, it would be, I'm operating from a place of alignment versus I'm operating in conformity to.
Yes. External expectations.
So internal versus external. So I'm operating from a place of vulnerability or I'm operating in transparency.
Right.
And you're not saying one is good and one is bad.
No, only you know that.
Right. But it is a good check of like, if I'm only operating in conformity or only operating in integrity versus I'm operating from these other things, then you know
Yes.
that some realignment needs to happen.
Yes.
Oh, I feel like conformity, we've got to spend time talking about conformity.
For sure.
We both come from churched backgrounds.
Yeah. But how quickly it became more of a performance so as to avoid the discomfort of someone else's displeasure or disappointment in how I was behaving, and realizing that most of these the external side of those, when I am operating in a place of blank, most of those are behavior driven.
Right.
It's an outward facing, what you appear to be, but that's not necessarily who you are. And so I think it can be, if I am operating in a place of alignment, like we're talking about this week, I can choose in some spaces to conform to something because it doesn't cause a misalignment in me. I wouldn't show up at a funeral in a swimsuit. I probably would wear black to most funerals because that is what's expected in that situation, in that social situation. Right. That's what is common.
Yeah. Social norms, cultural norms. Conformity is not bad.
It's not bad.
There are situations where conformity is
right.
Yeah.
Literally, it's right to do. I'm not misaligned in order to do that. But in those spaces where I feel that kind of in my body. I feel that incongruence. I feel that kind of like misaligned, needing adjustment. I feel uncomfortable. I feel like I cannot be myself. I'm not as energetic. I'm not as secure and confident. I may want to ask myself, is it because I'm now trying to conform to the expectations here?
Yes.
Or is it because I'm working out of alignment?
Yes.
Yeah.
That made me think about my days as a teacher. I taught kindergarten for some years. And, you have in kindergarten at that age, really you are helping them set a strong foundation for how to behave for the next 12 years or 15 years of for the rest of their life. And, those are critical years to teach things like, sit up straight, listen, line
Behaviors.
up, all behaviors. And one that really stuck out to me when we were talking about this and preparing for this was line up. And even though there are good reasons for staying in a line and lining up, single file line, there are plenty of good reasons why teachers will enforce that rule. I thought, what an interesting twist to, as a teenager, as an adult, to say, does it line up? So instead of conforming, instead of performing in our daily lives of like, okay, Deanna, line up, meaning line up with everybody else, line up with the rules. Does it line up with who I am?
I think it means, do you have to compromise who you are in order to perform or conform to that environment? I think you said, if it's not true to my authentic self, then it's not for me. If I can't maintain who I am at my core in that space, then I have to either revert to performing, which is pretending, or in order to conform.
Yeah.
Like to whatever's happening in that space. Last night as I was going to sleep, I was thinking about, some people could hear us talk about this and like, okay, well, I don't really want to conform to the speed limit on the interstate. I don't either. Just saying. I think it's ridiculous. I think we should have whatever, go the speed you want to. If you're however.
Do we want to talk about your speeding tickets last year?
Let's not. That's the law. And so therefore, because in my core, I'm relational, because I am spiritual, because I am these things, I want to maintain. That means I have to obey the laws that have been set forth in this way. So I am conforming to the speed that is set kind of most of the time. Generally, I'm conforming to the speed that's set on the sign.
Yeah.
So there are just moments you do, but at the same time, that doesn't compromise anything in me.
Right.
In doing that, I don't lose a part of myself because I obeyed the speed limit.
Right.
However, if I walked into another space and they wanted me to either have some particular behavior or look a certain way or be a certain way that was in direct conflict to who I know I am at my core, that's when I have a problem.
Yes.
And that's when I know either I have to voice that I'm not comfortable being myself in this space, or I have to leave the space.
Yeah.
Those are my choices in that spot.
Yeah. If the authentic part of you has to be sacrificed in order to be what you think others need or want, then that's not a space that
No.
you need to be in. I think it's important to point out, we're talking about alignment versus conformity. I think alignment is stability. Alignment is stable. It's consistent, where conformity is fluid. It's reactionary. So, I just imagine myself being kind of tossed to and fro.
Yeah.
Where if I'm reacting to what I think other people's expectations are of me, then I'm never grounded. I'm never true to who I am. I'm trying to be true to who they want me to be.
Exactly.
Which I may never know. And so I won't experience this aligned, grounded, stable place where if I operate in alignment, then no matter who I come in contact with or who I spend time with, I can experience that stability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And I think another way to put that is alignment produces security.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the inverse of that would be conformity produces insecurity.
Yeah. Because you're always trying to gauge what in this scenario, what are people wanting me to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all performance based. It's all behaviors, which to me that almost means that they really don't care who I really am.
Right.
As long as I perform and dance the dance. It's usually never enough. In my experience, when I get into a performance space, no matter how much I labor to win the approval of the person, it's never enough.
Right.
So at some point I just learned that, you know what, that I have to just be who I am and not base my worth upon other people's approval of me or disapproval of me.
That's right.
So there is a confidence in that.
Yeah.
That I was true to myself.
Yeah.